Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining Pathway to 17 2022. You are at the session for financial resilience for youth within a digital economy, within the inclusive digital finance stream for Pathway to 17. I have here my two panelists, Elisabeth and Babra, and I'm just going to give a brief introduction around their experience. So Elisabeth Kibitek is an associate partner at Microsoft Consulting, and she has led a lot of digital finance projects within Sub-Saharan Africa, such as Cameroon, DRC, Nigeria, and has worked with a lot of financial institutions as well. Her expertise includes project management, business planning, strategy, and she specializes in organizational evaluation, instructional design, and technical assistance. But first and foremost, she's a financial inclusion expert. So welcome, Elisabeth.
Thank you, Tariro. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
All right. And then the second panelist is Babra Chege. So Babra is a user experience research practitioner and a human-centered design practitioner at Kala in Kenya. She has worked on a lot of projects with fintechs, healthcare, banks, retail, telcos, and really she was part of the research paper that we're going to discuss here, done by Caribou Digital, Kala, and MasterCard Foundation. So welcome, Babra.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So I think this topic, Elisabeth and Babra, is a very interesting one, and enhancing the financial resilience of youth in a digital economy. So if we were focusing on the paper that you, Babra, were a part of, Platform Livelihoods for Urban Youth in Kenya. We know that Kenya itself is a breakout economy and has a good trajectory towards digital economy. But our focus around this session, which we'll always bring back to, is whether there is financial resilience, or is the earning income actually making youth, and we'll even focus on girls or women versus boys, male, if they are participating as much, and if it's improving their livelihood, or if their financial lives have improved. So I think I'm going to start with you, Babra. We know that after COVID, or from, let's say, 2020 to around 2021, there was a lot of upsurge of use of digital financial services, or digital participation as a whole. And as people sought to keep their earnings or maintain their livelihoods, there was a lot of platform participation, or gig work, whatever you would like to call it. But can we say now that we're recovering from COVID, what have you seen any changes in these trends? What are you seeing now?
Okay, this is a very good question and an interesting observation at the same time. I'm going to reference some study we've been doing at Scala since 2020, that is during COVID and now post-COVID. The main goal of the study was to research and evaluate the level of inclusivity and the quality of Kenyan youths' lives on these platforms. One of the major trends was that in Kenya, majority of the youths, and especially those in urban areas and those that are tech savvy, are really onboarded onto this platform. There's been a significant increment on the number of youths, both skilled and the unskilled, that are now onboarding on the different gig economy platforms. That is from the hailing cab services, the education platforms, the entertainment and creative sector. We've seen the TikToks, we've seen how young kids from nowhere are now getting major and huge brand deals. So it's been an interesting observation. And one of the key motivators for the youths is that they're able to access quick and flexible income, whether you're skilled or not skilled. And at the same time, they're able to learn and do better in whatever field that the platform offers or the platform deals with through job shadowing rather, because unlike the conventional modes of employment, you don't really need to prove your academic background. It's more of your portfolio speaks for you. So that has been one of the biggest motivations for the youth in Kenya. However, for their counterparts, those people who've been in the gig economy pre, during, and post-COVID, they tend to give more interesting observations and insights around the same, because as one gets, for example, in the hailing cab services, the Ubers, the Bolts, you find that a driver at first, when they want to get a gig and start navigating through the streets of Nairobi, the deals are luring in. The deals are nice. One gets amazing bonuses after covering, like after every 100 kilometer. But then after the driver is now hugely invested, we're talking of insurance costs, we're talking of now consistently financing the car loan, it becomes the nature of the business affects the worker, because you find that if the worker was employed by a corporate, for example, they would enjoy certain benefits like insurance, the right gears for work, and every other enabling environment. But then with the platforms, the cost now is shifted to the gig worker. And that now digs more into their pockets. And then the system in which these platforms are governing the gig economy is through algorithms. And our algorithms becomes now the center between the gig worker in this sector and the money they hope to earn. And as we all know, algorithms don't have empathy. So it's really been a 50-50 situation. If you have a conversation with a new gig worker, a new convertee into the space, they have every positive things to say. But then when you have the same conversation with an experienced counterpart in this sector, you find that there is the pros and there is the cons, and the most serious ones tend to have both a full-time job and then do a gig job on the side. I hope that answers the questions or shed some light on that.
Well, thank you, Barbara. And I liked you saying that there's no empathy with algorithms. But I'd like to hear from Elisabeth. You can bring in the Francophone experience, because I know that is the market that you represent in Microsoft. And Barbara was talking a lot about some of the barriers that people have been facing. And she's been talking about how when you start off, you're so excited, this is the trend, possibly when COVID hit and everyone was starting off on platforms, they were so excited. But then there's some barriers that affect your financial life that she has mentioned here on this platform. Maybe Elisabeth, can you share some insights, maybe from a Francophone type of view? Is it the same? Is the level of participation, is it different from Kenya?
Thank you, Tariro. It's important to note that the Anglophone countries are more advanced and using digital platforms than the Francophone countries. That's the first thing. But the trend is quite the same. Like the digital platform allows the young people, young women, young men to be more independent, to be able to showcase their work. And even we have seen a lot of new kind of entrepreneurs, people that are more focused on the entertainment industry and that are able to produce themselves vlogs or music, and that can be streamed and they can have earning from that. But also we have seen other types of entrepreneurs that have starting opening online stores or leveraging on the social media platform like Facebook or TikTok, Instagram to promote their products. The barriers are almost the same. All these platforms use algorithms, and as she said, Babra, algorithms are not friends with anyone. So it can hit very hard Another thing that I can say it could be seen as a barrier is that depending on the type of work you are proposing, for example, we have those people that have proposed offline work. They can be carpenter, they can be doing house chores in other houses. During the COVID-19, with all the recession, the lockdowns, we have seen a drop in the amount of the work that they could have through the digital platform. So they also have to reinvent themselves. And that was a main barrier for this type of people. And the last thing I can talk about the barrier is for the existing services that were already there, they needed to reinvent themselves using digital marketing to promote more on online platform to make sure that they can still have this stream of revenues.
Thank you, Elisabeth. And you talked about carpenters having to reinvent them, also to be part of this gig opportunity. Now, still on you, Elisabeth, I wanted to find out if really platforms have created this equitable opportunity for everyone, women, men, boys, girls, skilled and skilled. Are these really equitable opportunities? And I know that there are some advantages that come with working on platforms. For example, the physical appearance on platforms is not necessarily a factor in getting hired in some opportunities. There are some advantages of working over platforms, but tell us in your experience of how platforms have created an equitable opportunity or not, and how this then affects how youth specifically have financial resilience.
First of all, I will say that talking about gender gap will always be a persistent subject. It's not easy to solve because even at the global level, from 2017 to now, we have seen a shift. Even if it has improved, we went from 11% to 8% of improving that level of gender gap in the digital sector area. And talking about Africa, figures are not that good because there's still this gap in internet use between men and women. From 2019, for example, to now, we have seen that only 24% of women are using internet, while 35% of men are using it. That sets the first limit on opportunities women can have using this digital platform towards men. The second thing is that I can say is that in the platform, there are many opportunities that can be leveraged. There are no barrier at the entry. We can say definitely that there are equal opportunities for everyone. You can register to the platform, you can offer your services. They will not require you to be a woman or a man before registering. The bottom line is only that sometimes a few people reported, especially women reported, for example, that when they have proposed their services and they start interacting with the client, once the client discovers you are a woman, they decline the service because in their head, they think this kind of service cannot be offered by a woman. It's preferably to be a man. That are some biases that still exist and some limits that women are facing. So yes, there are equal opportunities for everyone, but being equitable in terms of earnings on that matter is difficult to say for now. Maybe later studies will help us understand and dive into that type of problem.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth. And Babra, from a Nairobi, Kenya point of view, I think it takes a certain level of persona, or we can segment people who work on platforms. For example, you really have to have some sort of a smartphone and you have to have a digital account. So when we're talking about equitable opportunities here, can you describe to us some of the things that you've seen, the positive and the negative from Kenya?
Okay, that is a good question. I'm going to use the creative sector, for example, again, referencing TikTok, or let's even bring it more specific to the music industry. Thank goodness there is technology, and companies like Spotify, these music distribution companies, are now in Africa. I'm sure it's in South Africa, Nigeria, it's in Kenya. I'm not sure, Elisabeth, you may tell us later. Now, you find that the platform already, as Elisabeth mentioned earlier, does not require you to be male or female for you to get into the platform. However, you find in the music industry, for example, the male have an upper hand because there is in the creative sector, there is the front end and there is the back end. The front end is having a complete product that can be onboarded to a platform for transaction, or rather for it to be exposed to the wider audience. However, there is the back end side where there is the factors of production. For example, in the music industry at large, from the events to the production of the music to the writing of it, it is predominantly male, and especially on the key drivers, which is the technology, the equipment, the experience, and the skills needed to make the best quality product that's going to be consumed by the market. Again, they have the upper hand because of the experience in the industry, and they've seen the trends and how different generations are connecting to music. So you find that a female artist may go to the studio and may encounter some challenges like sexual harassment. You may find that some of them are so naive and they're just looking at music from a talent point of view rather from a holistic business point of view. And you find that they're pretty ignorant on their intellectual property rights. So you find that an artist may go record music, and then the producer may give it to some other artist who's about to be better according to their own vetting. And this discourages the females from continuing with the business. Some may be discouraged. Some may fall to these traps and offer their bodies in exchange for favors. And all this at the end of the day affects them. So when it comes to the market, it looks as though it's the only people putting out the work are males. And hence, who are these, the people who run these events, who are they going to contact for these jobs? The men. And that puts the women at a disadvantaged position. So that has been the case in Kenya. It's an East African thing. There is very few female artists and consistent ones, and these are some of the challenges. When we look at the platforms, I believe there is some design that people can work around, especially the platform owners, on ensuring that from the back end, they get to support and protect these disadvantaged groups, such as women. However, it would look pretty easy, but then the question is, are they going to, would it be possible for them to provide a solution without involving all the key stakeholders of the music industry? And you see, there is no data in the gig economy because it's pretty much unstructured, from how the gig workers get their jobs to how they are paid. And lack of data may be a huge underlying factor to achieving equity and hence financial inclusion in the economy space.
Wow, Babra, I think you've highlighted there's such a complex industry and how women are participating in it from a gig point of view, or even from the traditional way of participating in that industry, how it's so difficult and so complex. And as we move towards this digitized economy or digitized society, how possibly women and girls are kind of left behind still. And there's that persistent gender gap that continues, whether it's financial inclusion or participating on platforms. Now, let's talk about these types of financial platform lives and their earning capability. Now, in your research, did you see this platform life becoming a primary income source? Right, still on you, Babra. A primary income source that can actually add to our financial inclusion numbers. And I know that the levels of participation in financial inclusion in Kenya, from a sub-Saharan point of view, are better than most. But give us, especially, and we are on a youth theme, especially for youth, the level of financial inclusion and the earning capacity on platforms. Is it really significant enough, or we're still growing?
That is an interesting question. We are still growing, and the earning potential for the youth in the gig economy space is huge. In my opinion, and from the research that I've done, I would say it's on an exponential growth, because unlike the conventional employment, on the gig economy, both male and female, young and old, can be able to work for more than one employer. You know what that means? That means flexible and quick modes of payment. What that means is that somebody, unlike the conventional modes of employment where somebody would be paid via bank transfer and the money would be taxed and traced by the relevant taxing authority, on the gig economy space, there is anonymity. As I mentioned earlier, the different terms and conditions of payment differ from a sector to the other and from a client to a service provider. There was an interesting thread on Twitter in Kenya the other day where, for example, in the freelance sector, I'm talking of the article writing, the transcribers, the Bitcoin traders. You find that these big companies like Google, Amazon, they're now looking for affordable talents in the East African market. And these people, they're not being paid by the regular bank transfer, they're paid in Bitcoins. And it is, as we know now, it's even more difficult to trace payments in those sectors. When you look at it from a gig worker perspective, it's a win-win because they get to earn untaxed money. They get to work for more than 1, 2, 3, 4 employers. And that means they avoid conflict of interest. And what these platforms have done, which is more of gives them an upper hand, is that they've embedded the escrow services in their platforms such that the interest, especially around money, because money is the biggest issue here, the interest around money is protected by these third-party intermediary services. So the gig worker is not going to get scammed of their money, as well as this, the client will not get scammed in terms of the service or product out of the set deliverables in terms of the terms and conditions they had agreed prior to transaction. So all these facets make the gig economy more attractive. Did I mention the flexibility part? Yes, people can work from home. They can work from home, and that is a plus, especially for Gen Zs.
Well, thank you, Babra. I think that that's some good news for women now, the level of participation they in some complex financial products like Bitcoin and the security side of it, whereas women can be more vulnerable on platforms in terms of personal violation, data violation, a lot of security issues there. Now I'll turn to you, Elisabeth. Let's look at it from a Francophone point of view, or in general from a sub-Saharan point of view. Is there that much earning potential on platforms? What are the trends? Is it really impacting on their financial lives and improving financial inclusion from your perspective?
For sure, there is a huge potential. Only in 2020, the internet economy contributed to up to 115 billion of US dollars in the GDP of sub-Saharan African countries. So it's very huge. This comes from a study from IFC. It's very huge. And we were talking about, Babra was talking about the music industry. If I start with that, the musical streaming is one of the sector that brings a lot of money, a lot of earnings. Many artists that we have are not trained. They are artists because they love the music, they love the art, they love what they are doing. And before they needed to have like a producer, a big company to produce them, but now they can just have the music stream on this platform and have some earning. And beside that, a lot of platform also allows these artists or these young artists to train themselves to understand how the industry works, to understand how they can better the quality of the productions also. That is the first thing. Second thing that I can say here is that in gig platforms, there is a lot also of opportunity of training or upskilling or reskilling that those workers have. If I can talk about Link here, that is a digital platform. They work mostly with people in the informal sector, and they help them to enhance the quality of the product, or even the presentation and the marketing, how they market the product and services to potential clients. They do not stop at that. They have put in place the Link Academy that help these workers to learn more about new skills, and to learn more how they can enhance the quality of the product and even interact with clients. On top of that, we know I was talking earlier about the offline workers, people that like carpenter, for example. When we all know that you can see something and it pleases you or not. So at the end, when they finish their work, the client can say, this is not what I wanted. I don't like it. So I will not pay the remaining of the money, and they can lose the job. And Link started offering insurance to cover that kind of risk. That helped the workers to make sure that they can work and still have the earnings they require at the end of the work. And there are also other opportunities that help these workers in the informal sector to change. Before, to start up a company, you needed to go to a bank, ask for a loan, but there are more and more mobile lending applications where you can leverage money to invest in your activity, or even have crowdfunding. You have this crowdfunding platform that can help these young entrepreneurs to raise money and to start investing in their activities. And even from our side, if I can touch a word on microsafe consulting, what we are doing. Only the couple of last year, we were able to develop and design an e-learning toolkit for entrepreneurship to help to work with incubators and help the entrepreneurs that are there to gain some skills and be able to enter into that entrepreneurship industry or sector with more confidence. That are how life of these workers can change positively. But in the same time, there are some cons because digital platforms, they are commercial businesses. They are there for the profitability too. So they have to think about how they can themselves make money. And sometimes the rates that they propose to the clients are not that much, because they want to attract a lot of people, and that results to the workers having less earning, because when the client pays, the digital platform also have to retain a certain amount for themselves and for their own business that is running. Not in all countries, especially in the Francophone countries, it's not easy for people for this kind of worker to gather themselves and to petition the government and to ask for a different, to ask for improvement. But it remains that these are the difficulties or the challenges that these workers encounter. Now it's up to everyone to to weigh the pros and the cons and to see, depending on the kind of services they are proposing or the kind of products they are proposing, if it's something that is interesting for them or not. But definitely there are a lot of opportunities that are already there and that are still coming.
Thank you, Elisabeth. I think that is quite a lot that you said. Now, coming back to financial products and services, and I know you've touched on this. We know that when youth are participating, depending on who they are, depending on the segmentation, skilled or unskilled, male or female, and what sort of industry that you are uptaking. There is what we want to check the trends. You talked about insurance products. You know, we want to open up financial services for them so we can give them more things and invite them into the financial ecosystem, making it a more inclusive financial ecosystem. What is happening here? Those who are doing maybe some manual jobs, are they just having that digital account to get my money and then I cash out? I'm still a cash kind of person, even though I'm participating on platforms, even though I'm participating on bigger platforms, e-commerce platform, maybe Jumia or Takealot, or depending on which country you are. How am I really interacting with the banks where you've worked with lots of banks within sub-Saharan Africa? Are they really tapping into this market? Are they looking at the trends and giving them something that's suitable for them? What is your opinion?
I think there are still opportunities. Currently, not all the banks are open to that because, you know, when you talk about the informal sector and we talk about gig platform, it's true the work is flexible, but also it's not sustainable sometimes. It's not regular. So the bank have some difficulty to rely on the earnings coming from that sector, from the workers. But aside from that, there are some others that are having partnership to make to work with fintechs and establish to make some mobile system payment system that will allow these workers to trust, to connect with between the system, the payment system, sorry, and the bank account, and to trust that the money they are earning will go into the accounts. Really, there are some partnerships that are ongoing like that, but there is still a lot of work to be doing, especially in Francophone Africa, where gig platforms are mostly on interacting with between the workers and the clients for specific work, and payment usually are made through, it could be through WhatsApp, it could be through mobile money directly, and they are less linked between this payment and the bank accounts. We are at the beginning, but my thought is that by 1, 2, 3 years, there will be a lot of improvement in the sector, and even financial providers will start looking at this sector with another perspective.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Now, Babra, I know in Kenya it's a different situation. First of all, because we've got M-Pesa, and I'm sure most people have an M-Pesa account. But what is the level of participation really with the financial services, with the banks themselves or microfinance institutions? Are youth or are banks targeting these youth who are working on platforms, or are they just, you know, I don't know, they're not dealing with banks? You talked about cryptocurrency. Maybe they're dealing with Google and they're being paid in crypto, in Bitcoin.
That is interesting because with M-Pesa, the government or whichever body is in charge of regulating or tracing this money is unable to know if the cash sent or the cash received is from work done or it's just money sent to family or for charity purposes. So you see, it is hard to keep record of the monies that are coming in, where the source is from, and especially people in the gig economy who get paid through other forms of wallets or different kind of crypto coin out there. There is no receipt or way of quantifying just how big this economy is, because as far as structures are concerned, it pretty much looks like a black market, my opinion though. So for example, with M-Pesa, it has really increased, or rather it has increased its favorability and attractiveness to the youths, because, for example, if I am a freelancer, I'm an article writer, and I go register on Fiverr or Upwork, and the platform's algorithm matches me with a client, and then I do the work. It's called the gig. You do the gig, the client is happy, the client gives an awesome review, I get paid. I will just transfer the coin, or if I'm paid in USD, to Kenya money via PayPal and send it straight to my M-Pesa and have it sent from PayPal to my mobile number. And then I can easily withdraw it from any M-Pesa agent near me, or rather I can just pay via M-Pesa. Unlike the conventional system where someone would, for example, in a media company, would do a blog or an article or work the whole month and then get paid 30 days or 31 days after. You see, the element of flexibility is really key, and has really made the youth be attracted to this kind of work. However, with the increasing trend in terms of no protection due to limited to no agency in this sector, has really affected those people who end up investing in this economy because of lack of standardization. For example, there was a conversation the other day on Instagram with some Kenyan content creators. You find that brands are going where the attention of the masses are, because that's where their target market is. But then you find that a content creator's rate card is different from the other. And this then brings a mismatch, and it looks like shooting yourself in the foot, because you're going to give your range, the other content creator is going to give a different range, and then there's going to be a clash. Then that leaves the gap for exploitation by these corporates, which is just chaotic, because again, lack of agency, lack of representation. There is no one kickstarting this conversation, because at the end of it all, it will have to get, in the grand scheme of things, the government and the responsible agencies to come in and form policies that can be constitutionalized so that to cover everybody. But again, remember, the gig workers, most of them get amazing untaxed money. Some of them thrive in anonymity, and in as much as it works for them, it also works not in their favor when it comes to these kinds of situations.
Well, thank you for that, Babra. And talking about regulation and some of the complexities that come on related to platform or gig work. Let's talk about social norms, right? Is it really acceptable? Are my parents happy that I'm this gig worker and I'm interacting with Google? I mean, I'm working with Google, so surely my parents are happy, or are they? I mean, how does it affect my position in society? What are some of the social consequences of working on platforms? Still on you, Babra.
Okay, I hope I'll be forgiven for this, but I hope we are aware of black tax, the latest or lasting taxes of all times. So, for example, look at it this way. So it's during COVID, everybody has been laid off, or at least there is a huge pay cut, or maybe the business is not doing well because of the rules that COVID brought to our doorsteps. So what did the youths do? I, as Babra, would create an account on TikTok, and I would do certain challenges, dance, talk a little bit, and I would be very famous. You see, fame begets social acceptability, because even those who are not approving at the beginning, but then they see you constantly, and everybody has your name in their mouth, it makes them look at it from a different perspective. Again, it makes it has made families and even brands and the society in general look at the creative economy differently, because it's the gig economy, how it operates is that it makes the gig worker have some sense of self-sufficiency such that they can be able to produce timely and effective quality of work with minimal to no supervision. Then that means when you have an amazing product or an amazing service and you're offering it to the right customer satisfaction, money of course will follow. However, also not however, again, if we look at another sector, for example, the freelance sector, even the agriculture sector, you find that through social media, for example, the creative side, unlike any other sector, they don't get to offer their services in the platform. How the platform works for them is just a place where they can showcase their portfolio to the wide audiences, some of which would be companies and individuals who'd want to work with them. And also so that becomes a point of selling yourself and networking. But then when we look at other gig workers in the freelance space, for example, a writer, you find that they're able to, I lost my train of thought. They're able to, what am I talking about? Please remind me.
You're talking about social impact.
Yes. The black tax part. Someone in the freelance side who's not necessarily all creative and they're not gonna dance their mathematics formula on TikTok, you find that they can be able to secure a gig on the, for example, Fiverr or Upwork, and then they consistently earn a living off the platform for like 3 months, and now that becomes some solid proof of concept, for example, to members of their livelihoods or their mates. And that's in that fashion, you find that it now becomes convincing and like a real concept, especially in this day and age of cloud chasing. So if whatever it is you're doing is bringing in money, then it becomes a huge motivation for others who are either unskilled or unemployed to join the platform, as it has very minimal entry-level requirements.
Thank you, Babra. Elisabeth, same question. And then there's a question for Babra from Clement that I'll pose before we wrap up. But I wanted to hear Elisabeth's point of view. And maybe, Elisabeth, you can hone in on women and the social norms attached to working on platforms. And if really this is an issue or it's not an issue in your context.
Thank you, Tariro. We say after Babra that being famous is well seen, but talking about women is always difficult when we talk about women because of the perception people have on women. It's like if you say, I have to go on fashion, and people will look at you as if you are not a good woman. And many of these women that are on social media or on TikTok, as you were saying, Instagram, Facebook, especially social media, they are, even if people know they are famous, people always question how they earn the money. When it comes to men, the question does not stand, because they will say they are famous on social media, on platform, digital platform, they can earn money. But when it comes to women, people always question how they earn the money, because the perception is that women should not expose themselves to a certain extent. Even at the individual level or the family level, some situations happen. Like people know you have money, you can help your family, you have your businesses, but they still don't trust you. This social acceptability is always on top of the women that are into a digital platform. Apart from the one that are on gig platform where they have the businesses, where they are entrepreneurs, and they can also establish relationship with other with other partners, and people can see it. The acceptance is different from the women that are on social media. That is what I can add from what Babra already said.
Thank you. And we don't really have much time to get into Clement's question, Barbara, but it was about women in the music industry and owning their production, their means of production, instead of to exploit, to reduce that exploitation from men. But I just wanted to thank you because we're right on time. I want to thank you, Babra from Kala in Kenya, and thank you, Elisabeth from MicroSave Consulting. You're based in Canada, you worked in Senegal. Thank you so much for bringing that Francophone perspective. Thank you for this wonderful session. I hope we can continue this conversation in another platform, or maybe next year at Pathway to 17 in the Inclusive Digital Finance stream. Thank you very much to all who joined us, and goodbye to you all.